Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Living on Lemonade podcast. Today, I'm actually recording in the basement if you're watching the YouTube version. I'm sitting in front of the toasty fire as I found. I kind of set up a little bit of a nook down here. I've been reading a little bit, doing some computer work off and on over the last few weeks, and just kind of my way of embracing the kind of hibernation season. And yeah, eventually I'll move my chair back up into my craft room, but I do love having my yoga mat down here. I'll do yoga in this space as well. And anyway, that was just a little random intro. If you're watching the video portion, you can see that the background has changed. It's just my kind of winter hangout spot. I'm super happy to be recording again. It's been a couple weeks, and I've had a couple topics that have been just sitting there waiting for a day when I had the energy and ambition and capacity to record. So I'm going to dive right in, and then I might record the second episode right away and have it scheduled out. So we'll see. Today I want to chat about some reflections that I've had come through while swimming lengths over the last few weeks and months. Now, if you've been following along, I did start swimming. I got back into the pool on fall equinox back at the end of September, and some weeks I don't make it to the pool depending on what my schedule is, if I'm out of town at my mom's or whatever, but I do make an effort to. Ideally, I'd like to be in the pool a couple times a week. So I try and make that happen as much as possible. Not only is it good to incorporate more movement, I've been working on my physical health, but I've realized very quickly that first dive in, those first few strokes, getting into that rhythm of breathing every third arm, that this was going to be great for my mental health. So it's been great on multiple levels, and just because of the wisdom I've received, is good on kind of a spiritual, intellectual level too. So I'm just gonna take a quick drink of water before I dive in. I find myself parched again. So I've had kind of three little lessons, and if you know me, I often will speak through kind of storytelling and my own experience. Just kind of interesting things. It's interesting when we adopt a mindful practice in our everyday life, the metaphors that we see just as we're going through our everyday, and how some of them can kind of just stop us in our tracks a little bit and cause a bit of a pause and a reflection or something to like ponder later. And I love that about kind of doing this work, and just being mindful and being curious. I think that's the biggest thing, is just being curious to life and allowing things to kind of come through when you're available for it. And I find this will bring me into one of my first points when I'm swimming. So I noticed one day, and I changed my practice up a little bit. At first it was kind of, I'd swim 10 legs front crawl, take a quick break, drink some water. I'm always drinking every 10 legs. So because we forget how much movement and we sweat in the pool, we just don't realize it because we're wet, right? So, but we do need to hydrate. So I always have my water bottle at the edge of the pool, and every 10 strokes I'll take a kind of a glug of water and then keep going. And then I noticed over after a few weeks, few months, starting to feel a little bit of resistance to the practice and the routine. And so there was one day, actually I'm gonna start on a different point. There was one day that I showed up, is during Christmas break, and it was a weekday afternoon, which is typically pretty low key, and no issue getting a lane and stuff. I totally forgot. Like I'm aware that it's Christmas break, but I totally forgot. Like, oh my gosh, there's gonna be families there. Obviously, it's, kids are at school. So I get there, and sure enough, it's busy, and they also have the lane like across the width of the pool. So there's no actual like lane swim lanes. You'd have to swim under the lane divider thing. Anyway, I'm losing my words a little bit, but so I get there and I'm kind of assessing the situation. I just drove a half hour, right? So it's like I just showered, I'm wet, I'm getting in the pool for sure. And I'm kind of looking at like, okay, who's where, and the deep end's fine. There's really nothing going on. The shallow end has some just kind of scattered families, and I'm thinking about like I could swim under the lane, like the lane divider thing, or the lane rope. I don't know why I couldn't think of rope, but anyway. But then I'm thinking like, but then I kind of have to dodge families and stuff, and I'm just thinking like that doesn't really sound like a fun time for me. So what I decided that day and is to switch up my practice. And I just thought, you know what? I'm trying to remember like what my energy level was that day, because depending on, especially like where I am in my cycle, I will I'll do different things now. So if I'm on my cycle or the luteal phase leading up to it, I might only do 20 lengths and just kind of like keep it low key, like very relaxed and kind of slow. Whereas if I'm just at the end of my cycle into the follicular ovulation phase, when I have more energy, I typically will swim the full 40 lengths, that 1 kilometer, and kind of I'll push myself more in terms of timeliness and speed. And then those last couple lengths, I'll really like kick it up a notch, and then I'll end up really heart rate up and, get things going. But so depending on where I am in my cycle, what my energy level is, I'm very focused on honoring my body and just breaking those hustle habits, and just tuning in and honoring what my body needs so that I can nourish it. I'm getting movement, but in a way that feeds my body and doesn't deplete it. So I decided that day, I'm not going to do lengths. It's not going to be a fun time. I'm going to get frustrated probably. I didn't get like, there was a time, probably not too far in the past, maybe a couple of years, that if I had shown up in that situation, I would have been like really pissed. I would have been like, what the hell? And just, disempowered to it. But I've just kind of been able to get to this place where I just kind of assess things as they are. You learn that, especially through yoga practice. That was where I first learned it. It was just showing up as I am each time and knowing that my practice is going to be different. Maybe one day I can stand on one leg and not need anything to help me balance. The next day I can't. Doesn't mean I'm weaker or whatever. Every day is just a little different. So showing up and just seeing what is and being okay with what is, and then it was an opportunity for me to just surrender to what was happening, knowing that I had forgotten that there's probably going to be some families, of course, during the winter break, and being okay to just pivot and change my practice. So that day, what I ended up doing is I just stayed in the deep end, and I didn't swim lengths. I did a bit of a workout in a different way. So I did egg beater, like wide leg. I also did like, I actually was like running in the water. So like full, like big stride, kind of like jogging. I was feeling it in my legs from the end of the pool, the deepest part, to the rope and back. I was just doing kind of lengths, like just kind of jogging, keeping my head above the water, and sometimes without any assistance of the arms. So it was putting more strain on my legs, so I was getting a better workout there. And then I was also doing like twists in the water, twisting my body and getting a little bit of abs that way, and using arms in different ways. So I was switching up different body, like muscle groups in my upper and lower body to get different results and stuff like that. So that was actually really cool. I think I did around a half hour of that. So what it taught me that day was not only was just an opportunity to practice surrender and pivot, but it added more diversity to what I can do when I show up to swim. If I decide there's a day that I'm just kind of feel like low energy or crampy, I could do a little bit of stuff in the deep end, just gentler, right? Because the nice thing about swimming is it's very low impact. It's great on the joints. And because you're in water and there's resistance, you can use the resistance as much or as little as you want to. So it can be very gentle. It can be very like kind of intense. So that was a lesson I learned that day. And now I have more things that I can build into my routine depending on how I'm feeling and how much I want to push myself. So that was super cool. Another day I think I went in the morning, and the morning is typically busier because there's more people that get up and start their day that way, or retired people or whatever, or they get up because they want to do it before work. If I'm going in the morning, it's because I'm on a day off or maybe working nights that night, like I'm switching over. I don't do many mornings, but once in a while I'll push myself to get my butt out of bed because I know it's better for me some days, so that I can get that swim out of the way and then be able to do other things that day without breaking up kind of my day in half with going to an afternoon one. So what I learned that day, because it was busy and we kind of had to stick to one lane. Because normally if I go in the afternoon, there's maybe one other person, two other people. Like I can have like a good chunk of the pool to myself. And sometimes there's only a couple people in the shallow end. So I have like the whole deep end. So if I haven't talked about this, I think I've mentioned it before, but at the end of my swim, my favorite thing to do afterwards is float on my back. I do like wrist and ankle rolls back and forth. So I do a little bit of stretching. I stretch my side on both sides, and I just kind of starfish out. And then I bring my breathing down, especially if I've swam a couple like really hard lengths at the end. And I spend 5 minutes just floating on my back. And for me, that is my like favorite thing about my swim is afterwards when I get to float on my back. I don't know what it is, but I love doing it in the lake. If it's calm, I'll just float on my back. It's very meditative for me. And I close my eyes. I do big, deep breaths. I notice how my body like lifts up and out of the water more. And then when I breathe out, I notice how it sinks down. So it's a very kind of somatic, like I'm in my body, I'm noticing sensations and stuff, and bringing my heart rate down, relaxing, doing some stretches, and just being very gentle at the end. And it's very meditative. I am super zen when I get out. I did this a lot. I started doing it when I was at the Coast Guard College. I would end my swims that way, and then I'd go in, have a nice hot shower. I'd get the sauna going, and then have a sauna to change into my like PJs and then go to bed. So it was like a great wind down routine in the evening, and I've adopted it because it's my favorite thing. It is like soul nourishment for me. There's just something about it. If you haven't tried it and you can float on your back, okay, try it sometime. It's very, very, very relaxing. Anyway, so I'm there. It's busy. I can't just like float across the pool like I normally can. So what I did is I kind of stuck to the side. I'd gotten out of the lane that I did the lengths in, so because someone had just arrived, and there was kind of some room on the edge of the pool near where I would get out, where the stairs are, to get out. So, or the steps. So I decided I don't want to sacrifice my floating because it is such a like, it's a priority for me. I love it so much. But I thought I can't be floating around. So what I did is I floated on my back, but I had my hands behind me holding the edge of the pool so that I didn't float around. I was still floating. I just wasn't like moving. So I didn't want to get into anyone's way that were doing lengths. And very quickly, I noticed the wisdom that came to me in that experience was how more turbulent the pool felt. Because when you're swimming, you leave a little bit of a wake, right? You're causing the ripples in the pool, and eventually they move from one side to the other. And the more people that are swimming, the more kind of little waves are happening. I remember in lifeguard training, and we'd have to do our timed swims, and there'd be like several of us across the pool, like just racing. It was crazy. Trying to get a breath without like taking water in was a skill. Anyway, so I was kind of brought back to that a little bit, and just really observing in the moment, like being in my body and having this experience and feeling my body being kind of tossed around a little bit by these small waves that all the other swimmers were creating. And it showed me a parallel to life, in that when we're going through life and we're clinging to something, we have to have something a certain way. It's like clinging to the side of the pool, especially when you're in like a turbulent chapter. And life will feel so much more turbulent, and it'll throw you around so much more when you're clinging to whatever it is that you need to let go of. This is where the practice and surrender comes in. And obviously I knew that as soon as I let go of the edge of the pool, if it was okay to do so, and I've felt it in other times when I can just kind of float around, you can still feel the effects of like the pool, because I'll keep my eyes open, I'll close them, and just kind of notice where I'm drifting if I need to move at all. But I notice like where the pool's kind of taken me in what direction and stuff. So I'm aware of like the influence of the external, but I've also surrendered to it, and I'm just kind of going with the flow. So it's more subtle, right? And as soon as I was holding onto the edge, I was just like kind of being tossed around like I was in a washing machine or something, or a whirlpool or whatever. And I just thought it was very interesting of a real life moment, reminding me that when life's turbulent, I need to focus in and look at, are there things that I'm clinging to in this chapter or in whatever chapter that are creating more chaos in my surroundings, and therefore creating more chaos internally because I feel affected and swayed by it. So it was an interesting kind of thing to ponder while I was floating there for a little bit and kind of take away. So I wanted to share that. And lastly, I had another parallel when I was swimming lakes one day, and it reminded me of my Wim swim, my cold water dips, that it's very obvious. Anyone who's done one either by themselves or I've kind of you've done one with me. As soon as for one, it's a shock walking in, like at any depth. You could get your ankles wet and it's still going to be uncomfortable. But I go hip deep, and then I sit down and go to my shoulders. It's the most shocking part is when you put your chest in, because that's where all your vital organs and stuff are, right? So then your body really has that shock response. And it's interesting because when you do that, your body will immediately start doing these sharp kind of short breaths, because it's a survival response, and you use your ability to breathe, like the breath work that beforehand with the prep work, if you do that, to train your body in that moment and to kind of recalibrate it and slow the breath down. But for the most part, unless like when you can slow down, that's when you have the ability to think of something other than literally surviving, right? So when you first go, and I'm digressing a little bit, but when you first dip in, all you can think about is how cold it is, that shock response in the body, it gets very real very fast. And then it's in the moment, mindfully and very like controlling your breath. Otherwise, it's going to do that kind of hyperventilation. So the parallel in the pool I noticed was when I was in the times that I swim and I'm maybe like, I just need to be gentle on my body that day, I notice my mind wanders. And sometimes I'm thinking about like stuff that's going on at work, or I'm thinking about things that I maybe did earlier that day or still need to do, or just like whatever's kind of on my to-do list or things that have been kind of on my mind or on my heart. And so sometimes it's really nice because I can kind of ponder. It gives me an opportunity to just kind of like work those things out. I'm actually getting another parallel as I'm talking about this. I'll say that after. And then, so there was one day where I'm like, I'm ready to like push it. I'm ready to just like go and see how fast I can swim my 40 lengths, right? And see if I can set a bit of a personal record. I had the energy that day. I had the gumption and the ambition. So, but what I noticed when I was swimming those lengths at that pace and pushing myself is I really wasn't thinking about anything other than counting in my head, either like 1, 2, 3, breathe kind of thing, which I kind of have naturally. So I'm not necessarily counting that, but I will, so that I can not lose which length I'm on. I count 1 to 40 essentially. I will continue to repeat that in my mind, say like every time I breathe. So like every 3 arm strokes, I'm repeating in my mind the length that I'm on, whether I'm on 1 or 20, whatever I'm at. So it was interesting to kind of observe that it's like the faster we're going, the less capacity and ability we have to think outside of what we're doing in that moment, or in the case of the WIM, the survival. We're really just kind of like narrowed in. And when we slow down, that's when our mind has a more ability and opportunity and space to kind of wander a little bit. And what I was thinking about earlier when I was talking, when I said, oh, I have another parallel that just came, is I was thinking about how oftentimes I hear, and I'm not immune to it, when we crawl into bed finally at night and we want to go to sleep and our mind starts racing. When we think about it, if we've had a really busy day, we're just kind of like on autopilot and like doing the things, right, to get through the day. And that's like swimming the lengths really fast or dipping into the cold water. We don't have the time to like think about all those extras. So as soon as we slow down, which is often that time of night when we're getting into bed and wanting to wind down and go to sleep, that's when our mind's like, oh, hey, we haven't had time to like think about all this stuff all day because we've been go, go, go. But here, I want to like drop this whole laundry list of things. So I think it's the moral of the story here is creating space in our everyday, or being mindful of the pace that we're going, and creating space every once in a while to just like take a few deep breaths, see what's coming up, check in with ourselves. And in the context of at night, because it is very relevant to many people, if not most, what type of practice can we do to like slow the mind, honor what's coming up, and don't disregard it because it's been waiting the whole day to kind of bring these things up. But how can we give it that space to kind of come up, but also be winding down? So for me, I will mentally, you could do this physically, grab a pen and paper. I will write out, because it's oftentimes like my to-do list for the next day or whatever. I'm okay doing it mentally because I'm very like visual, and I can kind of take a note in my brain and file it away. But if you need to write it down, like what's coming up for you that you need to like get on paper whether it's physical in your mind, and I will like create a mental to-do list and just kind of like slowly like add those things to the list in the order. Sometimes I need to reorder them. I need to spend a few minutes kind of just working with whatever's coming up in my mind. And that gives us some time for my brain to just kind of like slow down, recalibrate, and get ready for my sleep time. So I think I'll kind of end on that note, but as a last thing. But it was just it's interesting. My swimming journey has brought up so much wisdom on how to be mindful about my day-to-day stuff, and yeah, just have it. Just it's wisdom. I don't know a better word than that, of just being smarter, more intellectual about my day-to-day stuff, and kind of move through my day with more grace and ease because I'm aware of these things and I can work with it, right? And make things easier on myself. So I hope there's a nugget in there for you to take away. Feel free to share if you've had any aha moments. I love to interact. So if you've been listening to this podcast, we've never met, feel free to message me on social, just introduce yourself. And I'd love to say hi and thank you for listening and just being in this space. And I always hope there's something that you can take away and bring into your everyday life and just help you kind of move through it with more grace and ease. So I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone's doing okay. I know life's the world's a pretty wild place right now. So if you need to take those breaths and just slow down and come back into your body and make sure that you are well resourced so that you can move through all the turbulence, all the waves that are happening all around us, and we don't get thrown around by it any more than we need to, right? So I'm sending lots of love, big giant hugs, and I'll see you inside the next episode. Bye, everyone.